Good morning. Welcome this morning. Thanks for joining our Zoom Sunday service on this beautiful, crisp day. This is the Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Lower Bucks, and I'm Sherry Christenberry, your lay leader for today. For your best video experience, please put your screen on speaker view. And welcome. Welcome to this congregation where for over half a century we've been seeking to foster community, to grow our spirits, to serve others, and to work for justice. We're really glad you've joined us this morning in our sacred cyberspace and hope that here you will experience love, acceptance, and inspiration. After our service, please stick around for fellowship and conversation. Our Touchstone annual theme is Repairing the World, and our November topic is nonviolence. Going back to Thoreau on our Unitarian side and Reverend Aidan Ballou on the Universalist side, there has been an abiding appreciation of the importance of nonviolent resistance in our UU congregations. A commitment to nonviolence is essential to oppose and subvert a culture of violence that is so damaging. Nonviolence is an essential tool in the work to repair the world. Today's sermon is from Reverend Dr. Craig Rubano. Reverend Craig is minister of the UU congregation of Monmouth County. He's been guest ministering at UUFLB since 2011 while he was pursuing Masters of Divinity and Theology and a PhD in Pastoral Theology at Princeton Theological Seminary. He was ordained to the ministry in 2018 by the UU Congregation of Princeton. He's a graduate of Yale College and Columbia University, and he lives at the summit of 10 Mile Run Mountain, just north of Princeton, where he has helped to raise 2 nieces and 2 Nigerian dwarf goats. His sermon title today is The Advent of Hanukkah. On the first Sunday of the Christian season of Advent, and with Hanukkah beginning tonight, this service will celebrate a time of year when we are asked to slow down and dedicate our attention to our lives together in community as we gather inspiration from beloved stories of old. So now let us enter into worship together. For our prelude this morning, as always, we have our wonderful musician extraordinaire, Avi Wisnia.
Good morning. We begin with a traditional Hebrew song that talks about the importance of telling stories, the stories we pass on to each other and throughout the generations, especially around this time of year. This song is called Mi Yimalel, Who Can Retell? And I'll sing a little bit in Hebrew and in English. Mi Yimalel Gurot Israel Otan Mi Yimne Hin Bechol Dor Yakum Agibor Goel Ha'am Mi Yimalel Gurot Israel Otan Mi Yimne Hin Bechol Dor Yakum Agibor Goel Ha'am Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero or sage came to our aid. Who can retell the things that befell us? Who can count them? In every age a hero or sage came to our aid. Shema הימים ההם בזמן הזה, מכבי מושיע ופודה, ובימינו כל עם ישראל, ייתכן יקום להיגאל. Things that befell us, who can count them? In every age a hero or sage came to our aid. Mi yimalel gvurot Israel otan mi yimne, hen bechol dor yakum agibor goel ha'am. In every age a hero or sage came to our aid. Hein bechol dor yakum agibor goel ha'am. In every age a hero or sage came to our aid.
Thank you, Avi. And now join me as Gil lights our chalice. Let there be light. Let it shine in dark places, in moments of pain, in times of grief, in the darkness of hatred, violence, oppression, where there is discouragement and despair. Wherever darkness is to be put to flight, let there be light. Our opening words this morning are from Thich Nhat Hanh. It never helps to draw a line and dismiss some people as enemies, even those who act violently. We have to approach them with love in our hearts and do our best to help them move in a direction of nonviolence. Our message for all ages is from Beck Stow, our RE coordinator.
Good morning. My name is Beck Stow, and our story for all ages today is called Our Favorite Day of the Year, written by A.E. Ali and illustrated by Rahele Jeanpour Bell. On Musa's very first day of kindergarten, his teacher, Ms. Gupta, said, "Look around the room. You don't know them now, but these faces will become your closest friends this year." Musa looked at the three boys at his table. They didn't look like his friends. They were total strangers. A great way to make new friends is by sharing things we like. For me, meeting new students is my favorite thing to do. That's why the first day of school is my favorite day of the year. Musa couldn't believe that was true. And he could tell Moises, Mo, and Kevin didn't believe it either. This year for Show and Tell, you will take turns telling us all about your favorite day of the year. That way, throughout the year, the class will celebrate with you. Musa perked up at this. The best day of the year was definitely Eid. Surely Eid was everyone's favorite day. A few weeks later, Musa and his mom brought in food and decorations for the class. Eid Mubarak, said the sign. Musa taught the kids how to say it. On Eid al-Fitr, my family goes to mosque early in the morning to pray. And afterwards, we have a huge breakfast. Family and friends come to the house all day to eat food and bring presents. People will eat all kinds of food since Muslims come from all over the world, Musa shared malawaks, yuzhong, and rose lassi. Everyone could see why Eid was Musa's favorite. Soon it was Mo's turn. Shana Tova, said the sign. Mo stood at the front of the classroom and said, "Happy New Year. My family is preparing for the Jewish New Year of Rosh Hashanah." Mo taught the kids how to say it. On Rosh Hashanah, we light candles at night and go to the synagogue during the day with our family and friends. We also eat lots of yummy food for a sweet New Year and wish each other Shana Tova. Mo brought apples dipped in honey and challah bread to share with the class. Everyone could see why Rosh Hashanah was Mo's favorite. During the winter, it was Moises's turn. Feliz Navidad, said Moises. I'm sure you guys have heard of Christmas, but not the way my family celebrates. On Christmas, we celebrate Las Posadas. Moises taught the kids how to say it. It lasts 9 days, and we decorate the house with flowers, wreaths, and lanterns. We sing songs, drink ponche navideño, and hit a piñata. On the 9th day, Buena Noche, we go to church at midnight and open presents when we get home. Moises brought pancha navideño and a piñata for the class. Everyone could see why Christmas was Moises's favorite. Kevin also shared about his favorite scientist, Isaac Newton, who discovered gravity when an apple fell on his head. Kevin brought freshly baked apple pie to share with the class. Everyone could see why Pie Day was his favorite. On the last day of school, their teacher sat the class down in a circle. I'm going to miss you all very much, she said. I want you to look around the classroom. Musa looked and saw his best friends, Moises, Mo, and Kevin, and the other kids that he'd gotten to know this year. But what if Musa, Moises, Mo, and Kevin weren't all in the same class next year? Their teacher handed out a calendar with many holidays on it. This way, you can always remember when we're not together to celebrate the days that brought us together. The whole year was full of days to celebrate with friends new and old. The end.
Thank you, Bex, for a wonderful story. And now we turn to Avi Wisnia once again for the interlude.
And now I invite you to listen to this traditional Hanukkah song. It is usually sung around the menorah, after lighting the menorah on Hanukkah. And today I invite you to just listen to the music, listen to the song, and think about the stories that you might be telling those that you gather with this holiday season.
Thank you, Avi. And now I'd like to introduce Reverend Dr. Craig Rubano for his reading.
Hello, Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Lower Bucks. I am feeling blessed to spend another Sunday worship service in your midst. In a season when we look to our traditions, one of mine the past 10 years has been to spend a few Sundays a year with you. And in two religious traditions close to my heart, today is a special day. In my home tradition of Christianity, this morning is the first Sunday of Advent, those 20-something days of waiting and counting down to Christmas. In Jewish tradition, this evening marks the advent of Hanukkah, a festival of rededication, when over the course of 8 days, we are given the opportunity to slow down and dedicate our attention to our lives together in community. In both traditions, we gather inspiration from beloved stories of old. This morning I offer as a reading a new take on the 8 lights of Hanukkah with a poem by Marilyn Rowans. I invite us to center ourselves and picture a menorah, 8 candles with a central shamas candle as we light it together in our minds. The first light is the light of reason that teaches us to see the difference between right and wrong. The second light is the light of self-esteem, a light that inspires us to believe in ourselves. The third light is the light of courage that gives us the strength to stand up for our beliefs. The fourth light is the light of freedom, a light that reminds us to take responsibility for our own lives. The fifth light is the light of love that enables us to care for those in need. The sixth light is the light of loyalty, a light that helps us keep our promises to those who depend on us. The seventh light is the light of generosity that encourages us to give even when we do not receive. The eighth light is the light of hope, a light that leads us to a vision of a better world. May it be so for all of us this holiday season.
Thank you, Reverend Craig. For our offering today, the split plate recipient for the month of November is the League of Women Voters of Bucks County, which never supports or opposes candidates for office or political parties. Elections and voting are core concerns for the League of Women Voters, which is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages informed and active participation in government, works to increase understanding of major public policy issues, and influences public policy through education and advocacy. Please give with your hearts and give generously. And now I'd like to welcome back Reverend Craig for the sermon.
This is a momentous day in my little house in the woods. You see, I have a pretty huge collection of holiday CDs. Yes, I still use CDs. I love handling them and putting them in the player and reading the liner note inserts. And each year, beginning on the first Sunday of Advent, I begin to play my holiday CDs, 6 at a time on shuffle, as my house gradually is decorated with lights and tinsel and menorot and ornaments and nativity scenes. Advent, a word coming from the Latin adventus, which literally means the coming, and which therefore taps into the sense that we are living on the cusp of something good. Advent is a time of preparation, weeks leading up to the celebration of Christmas and the birth of something new and wondrous, and importantly, something also politically subversive and people affirming. For the child we celebrate on Christmas morning signifies the power inherent in all human beings to work for change. in defiance of the emperor or whatever conventional forms of power that would keep us docile and locked into patterns of servitude or feelings of worthlessness. The lowly child born in Bethlehem, held to be a king, is a sign that each of us has power to tap into the universal. Each is loved and held by whatever transcendent energy we might posit. That the very universe is brought into unique and beautiful and essential expression by every single child that is born. And that includes you and me. But tonight is also the first night of Hanukkah. Now, while most of my recordings are Christmas related, on the first night of Hanukkah, I shift over to my smaller collection of Jewish favorites. And while there is nothing so sublime perhaps as Connie Francis singing My Yiddische Mame, my favorite is the Hanukkah Story, a song collection narrated by Theodore Bickel and sung by the Western Wind Vocal Ensemble. It includes all the selections we love, like Hanukkah, Oy Hanukkah, I Have a Little Dreidel, and Mi Yemalel. But more importantly, it includes the unfolding of the holiday's history. The only time in the season I ever overrule the shuffle mode. This CD I always listen to in order, so that the story of Hanukkah can be told in full. It is a harrowing and beautiful tale of oppression, resistance, victory, and rededication, along with some elements that seem to have been borrowed from this time of year, when in the Northern Hemisphere, the days dwindle down to their shortest length. And for millennia, people across vast swaths of the world have celebrated the return of the light. Just when it seems that the sun will rise no more, the mere act of lighting a fire or a torch or a candle can be invested with all the yearning for life and light and renewal that inform all the holidays at winter's beginning. Part of my tradition this time of year is that I begin each day with my coffee, logging into my computer and entering into an Advent calendar land, which this year has a London theme, with Big Ben, the Houses of Parliament, the mighty Thames with its iconic bridges, the gigantic Ferris wheel, the Hyde Park Winter Wonderland, and snow, always falling snow and drifts of snow and gleaming expanses of snow, and the eerie sudden stillness that a fresh snowfall bestows. Beautiful images that stand in stark contrast to the frantic scarcity mindset that sweeps up so much of our energy this season. At a time of year when I could be so tempted anxiously to count down the days and perhaps count up the presents, there is nothing quite like snow to slow things down and to make each day count, inviting a less harried contemplation of the abundant beauty of creation. There are many ways to count the days of Advent, to experience the stillness that can be at the heart of anxious waiting, and to celebrate along the way, and nearly all have an element of candlelight to signify the warmth of a new birth. There are Advent wreaths with their 4 candles, 1 a week. There are Advent calendars. There are Advent devotionals with daily readings, activities, and ways of being in community with other, perhaps less fortunate persons. But Advent is always punctuated by the cold, the shortened days, the long nights of waiting and of anticipation. I say always, but of course, the theme of light piercing the darkness is an upper northern hemispheric reality. Having grown up in the southern hemisphere myself, my childhood Decembers were occupied with swimming pools being filled, barbecues cleaned up, and evening dinners stretching later and later into the longest days of the year. So I am particularly enchanted living into the encroaching darkness, followed by the births of light and hope and joy. This has been so long before a Christian of tradition of Advent began, and I know in 2 weeks we will celebrate the solstice, representing thousands of years old practices of bringing the longest night to a hopeful close. But surely the Christmas traditions took root not only from these pagan rituals, but from the celebration of Hanukkah, also situated to partake in the light-bearing fascination. And from this Jewish tradition too, we count the days, and yet engage a counter-narrative of entering a patient relationship with time. For Hanukkah at its heart is all about the stillness of dedication and rededication, of what it takes to live into community. Hanukkah comes from the Hebrew for dedication, and the word itself captures the most important part of the Festival of Lights. In the 160s, the 160s before the Common Era, so over 2,000 years ago, after many years of living under occupation by foreign empire, the Judeans of Palestine suffered the last straw. Their holy temple was defiled, and practicing their religion was declared against the law. That fall season, a resistance movement rose up, and against all odds, within a couple of months, the temple was taken back, and Jerusalem was returned to Judean rule. Since they hadn't been able to celebrate the week-long harvest festival of Sukkot, they had vowed to do so whenever they had the temple back. And so they did, even though it was winter. Many scholars believe that's why they celebrated for 8 days. But first they had to rededicate the temple, so they removed the pagan statuary, cleaned the place up, and created a holy moment of stillness amidst their triumphant joy by lighting the central oil lamp of their religious sanctuary, much as we light a candle in our services, to dedicate the space as a sacred place of gathering. So Hanukkah is a valuable reminder. Those things that are important to us, the way we live our lives, the values that guide our behavior, our families, the community of congregants of which we are a part, all of these require ongoing dedication, which takes work. We dedicate ourselves to one another and to the world, and then we rededicate ourselves again and again. And tradition tells us that a small portion of lamp oil, enough for a day, lasted all 8 days of the temple's rededication celebration. From that came the tradition of frying things in oil and the dreidel top game, whose side letters spell out an acronym for "a miracle happened there." Hanukkah sheds light on what's truly wonderful this time of year in all the traditions that beg us to slow down and still our hearts, the diversity of ways that we can collectively remind ourselves of the light we are to one another. For a Unitarian Universalist congregation, the 8 days of Hanukkah observance remind us that dedication to community is not a once and done process, but is iterative. Our covenanting with one another allows for times when we fall short of our promises. But if we release ourselves from a framework of failure and scarcity, we will see that from our missteps come learning and an awareness of our abundance. Theorist of Change, Adrienne Marie Brown writes, "Transformation doesn't happen in a linear way, at least not that we can always track. It happens in cycles, convergences, explosions, and that will take time and commitment, a willingness to step outside of the comfort of the current and lean into the unknown together, to listen to one another across all real and perceived divides. It is important to cultivate our patience, our thoughtfulness, our willingness to slow down. And as we transform, we see more things that need transformation within ourselves and the world. Dedication and rededication. Agreeing to be in community with one another, not in spite of our disagreements, but because of them. Vowing to stay in the game, widening its circles so that an ever more diverse constituency can join us in our movements of love and justice and caring. We transform our holiday countdowns into days that count when we allow Hanukkah to show us what a miracle it is every time we care enough to dedicate our attention to purposes greater than ourselves. So I wish you all a happy Hanukkah and a still and productive Advent season as we count down the days until we see each other again on Christmas Eve. I look forward to seeing you then. In the meantime, I've got a lot of music to listen to.
Thank you, Reverend Craig. And now is the time in our service when we lift up one another in love. Let us be fully present and listen with open hearts. If you wish to share something, click on reactions and then click raise hand, and we will help you to unmute. And when all else fails, just wave your hand wildly and we will find you. Okay, Bill and Mary Jane have something. Hang on. Gil, it's a W. There you go. You should be able to unmute now, Bill.
Okay. What I want to share is the joy of fellowship that we have. I'm so thankful that we have this. And we continue through ups and downs. And I am so thankful that this Thanksgiving we were together. It was with family, and it was just wonderful.
Thank you for sharing. And while we're, who needs, wave your hand if you, okay, Gloria. There you go, you passed her. You should be able to unmute now. Easier said than done.
Wait. Okay, I think that, I don't know how many of you get the Bristol Courier Times on Sunday, but last Sunday, my son was featured in the front page article for his humanitarian kindness in helping others find lodging in his little village off Wheatleaf Road in Mars, Levittown. And the article didn't say so, but he told us the woman he really helped murdered someone. So we're a little nervous about it, but she only got 5 years, so there must have been extenuating circumstances. But it was a beautiful, beautiful column about my son, Jason Ward, our family's hero.
That's great.
He's putting my lights up right now outside.
Oh. Well, he is a very helpful person.
Yes, he is.
I see Karen Marcus is on from California. It's good to see your face. Anybody else? I just wanted to share our joy is that Scott will be coming home for 2 weeks in a few more weeks. He'll be coming home in time for his birthday and Christmas and New Year's. And we have not seen him in person in 2 years because of COVID. So we are really looking forward to that. Anybody else have a joy or a sorrow to share? Well, whether or not you shared today, for your joys, we in this community join you in celebration. For any sorrows or concerns, spoken or unspoken, may you feel our sympathy and compassion. Let's pause for just a moment of gratitude, silent meditation, and prayer. Avi has a wonderful closing song for us.
We'll conclude today with a song by Peter, Paul, and Mary, written in the spirit of Hanukkah, called Don't Let the Light Go Out. And it's about that light that we light on Hanukkah, that we keep alive on all holidays. It's a light of faith, a light of justice, a light of freedom, a light that we carry forward by remembering the past and bringing it into the future. Don't let the light go out. Light one candle for the Maccabee children. Give thanks that their light didn't die. Light one candle for the pain they endured when their right to exist was denied. Light one candle for the terrible sacrifice justice and freedom demand. Light one candle for the wisdom to know when the peacemaker's time is at hand. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. What is the memory that's valued so highly that we keep it alive in that flame? What's the commitment to those who have died when we cry out they've not died in vain? We have come this far, always believing that justice will somehow prevail. This is the burden, and this is the promise, and this is why we will not fail. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears. Don't let the light go out, it's lasted for so many years. Don't let the light go out, let it shine through our love and our tears.
Thank you, Avi. That wasn't a song I was familiar with, but now that I've heard it a couple of times, I really do like it. Please join me in our closing words. When we take fire from our chalice, it does not become less, it becomes more. And so we extinguish our chalice, but we take its light and warmth with us, multiplying their power by all of our lives and sharing it with the world. Our service is concluded, but we will continue in fellowship. I think it's now the best time to go to gallery view.